I'm a female and graduated from high school a few years ago. This story took place during my junior year. At the time, like most people, I used Snapchat to talk to most of my friends and would be on the app all the time. One day, I was back home from school and happened to be home alone. Both of my parents were out shopping and my younger sister was at her friend's house. I was just doing homework in my room that I really needed to get done and playing music from my phone, which I had at my desk with me. I would occasionally go on my phone to snap my friends or change the song. As I was on Snapchat, I accidentally swiped over too far and went to the snap map. I was about to go back, but then noticed that according to my snap map, my friend Abby was right outside of my house. I hadn't heard a knock on the door or anything like that, and it seemed really strange, because Abby went to school with me and was in my grade, but it wasn't like we were good friends or anything. In fact, I don't think I had ever hung out with Abby outside of school. I knew she lived in my same city, but didn't live in my exact neighborhood. I decided to send her a snap and ask her what she was doing at my house. After I sent it, before I could even put my phone down, I saw that she had opened the snap, but as I waited for her to respond, she never did. It was really strange that my snap map was showing her currently outside of my house. I looked out my bedroom window, but didn't see her or anybody. Then, I decided to leave my bedroom and look outside the front door where I would have a better view. When I got to the living room, I wasn't hearing or seeing anything. I walked towards the front door, and it was then that I thought I heard some movement coming from the back end of the house outside. I looked back over to the back door where I heard the noise. There wasn't a good view from outside where I was, so I couldn't immediately see anything. I walked over to the back door and looked outside of it. When I did, I didn't see anything at all. I went out the back door and looked around. I even called out for Abby, but I got no response. I then walked all around the yard looking before going back inside. I looked at my phone once again and now saw that Abby showed as being a few blocks away. I guessed that she had left. I decided to call her because it seemed so strange to me, but when I did, she didn't answer me. The next day, when I got to school, I decided to find Abby and ask her what she was doing at my house. I knew sort of where her locker was, so before class, I approached her and asked. When I did, she looked confused. She told me that she hadn't been there, and after telling her I saw her on my snap map, she was even more confused. She said that she had lost her phone the previous day and thought that somebody had stolen it from her. Suddenly, it became much more creepy to me. That hadn't been Abby in my house, but somebody else. I went right back on my phone to look at her location on Snapchat, but the location of her account was now off. When I got home from school that day, I told my parents about what had happened. We all kept a close eye outside for the next few days, but luckily never saw anybody. Lately on Snapchat, there seems to be a lot of bots. I used to be added by spam accounts every once in a while, but not very often. Within the last few months though, it seems to be happening much more than before. I'm not sure if that's how it's been for everyone else or just me, but anyways, a couple of weeks ago, I was on my phone and on Instagram while bored in between classes. I'm in college and have a gap in between classes during Mondays and Wednesdays. As I was on Instagram, I saw a notification come on the top of my screen that somebody had added me on Snapchat. I didn't recognize the name, and it sounded fake to me, so I figured it was definitely a bot. I was so sure of this that I didn't even bother to go to Snapchat. I just stayed on Instagram. After my class was over, I then went home. I live off of campus in a sort of older college house with 2 other guys as my roommates. When I got back home, I was the only one there and went up to my room. I noticed that the bot account that had added me on Snapchat had sent me a snap. I then went on Snapchat to block and delete the account and was expecting to see the normal spam chat that the bots would send me. But when I got to Instagram, I saw that I hadn't been sent a chat, but instead a purple square as though it was a video. I debated even opening it, but out of curiosity, I decided to. After I clicked on it, I was surprised by what I saw. It was a video of a dark room being lit up only by the light of a camera, as if the person's phone had the flash on. They were walking around a dark room, and I occasionally saw their feet and part of their legs as they were walking. It appeared to be an unfinished basement that they were in. I then started to hear a creepy laughing noise. As the videos went on, the camera began to show more around the basement, and I realized that it looked an awful lot like our basement. I then noticed the TV box that we had down there, and that's when I knew for sure. The video then seemed 100 times more creepy to me than it already was, and my heart started pounding. The person in the video kept walking around and laughing, and then the camera turned to face the person. It was a man smiling with really long and messy hair. I had no idea who he was. The video then abruptly ended when it seemed like he was about to say something. I immediately left my bedroom and walked down the stairs to the basement door. I put my ear up to it and listened closely. I didn't hear anything at first, and I even thought about going down there, but then thought I heard a noise. I then didn't waste any time and left our house and got into my car. I decided to drive away because I didn't feel safe there anymore and went back to campus. I then told all my roommates about what had happened. Later that day, when we were all together, we felt much more brave and returned. We decided to all go down to the basement, but when we did, we found that it was empty and nobody was inside of it. We went around the house outside and saw that one of the windows leading down to the basement was broken and appeared to be open. We ended up fixing that up, and since then, the person has deleted me on Snapchat, and I have no idea who they are. I went to a pretty big college. There was a ton of students that went there, and I enjoyed the experience. This was a few years ago now, but one day after one of my classes, I happened to meet a girl. At the time, I was a freshman, and this was like sort of early on in my first semester. I had only made a few new friends that were in some of my classes. When I was leaving one of my pretty large classes, a girl was walking next to me, who I assumed was in my class, and she complimented me on my shoes. It took me by surprise, and when I saw her, I thought she was good looking, and I complimented her back. This led to me introducing myself to her, and after briefly talking, she asked me for my snap. I was excited by this, and we snapped for the next few days quite a bit. Her name was Jenna, and after getting to know each other over Snapchat, she asked if I wanted to hang out with her that night. I said yes, and she said that her and her roommates were going to the beach to have a fire. At our campus, it was right by a lake, and at one point of the lake there was a beach area and had spots set up for campfires. It was a sort of popular thing for the students to do. I had to work at my campus job until almost 9 p.m. that night, and told Jenna I could come afterwards, and she said that would be great. After work, I drove the 5 minutes or so to the beach and parked at one of the little parking lots. The park area was rather big, and I had never been there before. Jenna snapped me and told me that they were down at the far end of the beach away from the parking lot. She said she would turn on her Snapchat location for me to follow, and when she did, I saw that she was much farther down from where I had parked, but there were no other parking lots. I got out of my car and started to walk into the sand. It was really dark out there, and I had to use the flashlight on my phone to really see. At the end of the beach, there was a wooded area connecting the park to the beach. I walked along the water for a good 2 or 3 minutes looking out for anyone, but I wasn't seeing them. I saw on the snap map that I was getting closer to Jenna, but I wasn't there yet. I kept on walking, when suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard the sound of somebody walking towards me rather quickly. They were coming at me from the side near the woods, and I looked over and shined my light. For a split second, I saw the figure of a man, and he was walking right towards me, but as I shined the light on him, he darted to the side and away. I then looked over to him again, and saw that he was coming towards me aggressively now. I kept walking down the beach and tried to dodge away from him, until I felt the man start to grab me. I jumped away and ran quickly up towards the woods. I put my phone in my pocket so the man wouldn't be able to see where I was, and when I had separated myself from the man by a few feet, I turned to the direction that I had come from. I heard the guy running behind me on the beach. He was only a few feet behind me, but eventually I began to outrun him. I kept sprinting as fast as I possibly could, and somehow I made it back to where I had parked the car. I desperately got back inside of my car and drove off as fast as I could without looking back. When I had made it far enough away, I got back on Snapchat to call Jenna and tell her that there was a crazy guy on the beach who had chased me. When I went to call her, though, I was shocked. Jenna had blocked me. It was then that I realized Jenna likely wasn't who she said she was, and instead, she had set me up.